In this video from IT Free Training, I will register a domain name using the Internet Domain Registrar, GoDaddy. Before I get started with the process, I will first have a quick look at the infrastructure behind the Internet Domain Registrar, which makes the whole process work. Understanding this will help you troubleshoot your domain when things go wrong. When you register a domain name, you need to choose a top-level name for the domain name. Examples of top-level domain names are .com and .net. Information about these top-level domains are held on special DNS servers and managed by approved organizations. In this example, consider the top-level domain .com is held on this server. As part of the DNS resolving process, a DNS server may contact this server to find out where information about a .com address can be found. To understand the process a bit better, consider what happens when you register a DNS name and thus own and control part of the Internet, so to speak. In order to do this, you need to put the request to register the DNS name through an Internet Domain Registrar, for example, GoDaddy. If the request is successful, a zone file is created on the Internet Domain Registrar with the DNS records for the newly created domain name on a minimum of 2 DNS servers. Once the zone file is created, you are free to add any record that you wish to this zone file. The issue is, how does a DNS server on the Internet know how to find this zone file and thus resolve DNS requests for that DNS name? In order for this to occur, DNS records in the .com zone need to be created. These records contain the address of a minimum of 2 DNS servers that hold the zone files. In this case, the Internet Registrar will have their DNS servers and will point these DNS records to their DNS servers. So now everything is set up. If a DNS server wants to resolve a DNS request, it asks a top-level domain server where the zone file for that domain is being kept. The top-level domain DNS server will respond back with the address of the DNS server that is holding the DNS zone. In this case, the DNS server will be one of the registrars that the DNS name was registered with. In some cases, you may have your own DNS servers you wish to use, or different DNS servers hosted by another company. Remember, you always need to have at least 2. When this occurs, you can have your registrar change the DNS record in the top-level domain to the address of your DNS servers. Once this is done, you simply need to create and manage your own zone file on these DNS servers. Although this is possible, when you register a domain name and use the hosting provided by that registrar, and then add other services like email, these services can be configured automatically if they are not pre-configured. If you change the DNS servers, you will need to ensure that the new DNS servers are configured with the required DNS records. If they are not, be warned. If you attempt to restore the original settings, the process can take 24 to 48 hours to completely take effect. For this reason, think carefully before you make such a decision to change which DNS servers are hosting the DNS records for your site. I will now change to my Windows 8 computer to look at how to register a domain name with GoDaddy. First of all, I will open Internet Explorer and then open the page GoDaddy.com. To start with, I will enter in the domain name itfreetraining.com to see if it is available to be registered. Once I press Go to perform the search, GoDaddy will respond back telling me that the domain name itfreetraining.com has already been taken. If the domain name that you are looking for has already been taken, GoDaddy will give you some possible alternatives that have not been registered. Notice at the bottom there are also some domain names that have been registered but are up for sale. You will also notice the cost of these domain names are quite high compared to the cost of registering a new domain name. Hopefully the domain name that you are after is available and you will not have to pay top dollar to buy it from someone else, assuming that they are trying to sell it. If I scroll through the alternatives, there is one, techfreetraining.com, which is similar to itfreetraining.com, so I will add that to my cart to be registered. When the domain name is added to the cart, some additional options appear which can also be added to the cart. If you press Continue to Checkout, none of these options will be added. By default, the option Privacy Protection is selected. GoDaddy has a lot of hotspot help points. If I move my mouse over this one, you can see the difference between using privacy protection and without privacy protection. On the left, you can see all the personal details are available, like address and phone number. Anyone using Whois, which is a DNS tool that is freely available, can look at this information. So essentially, whatever information you put in here is public information. It is a requirement for registering domain names that this information is accurate. You are also required to change this information if it is not accurate. If you do not want this information to be public, you can select the Privacy Protection option, and the result of Whois will appear with what is on the right. This time, notice that the details are the GoDaddy address and phone number. Also notice the email address. Any emails sent to this address will be automatically forwarded to you. This keeps all your personal details secure. It is up to you if you want to pay the extra money to keep your details from being known to the public. You also have the option on the left, Domain Only. However, if you don't press the Add button on the right, no additional products will be added and you will have the Domain Only in the cart. The option on the far right, Privacy and Business Protection, gives you a few extra features in addition to the privacy protection. Normally, when a domain name expires, it is available to be registered, and if someone registered it before you, they can take your domain name. This option prevents the domain name from being registered for 12 months after it has expired. It also prevents the domain from easily being transferred. This option puts additional security on the domain, which prevents the user from accidentally transferring the domain name to someone else. In this case, I will add the option for privacy protection, which will keep my details secure. Now that it has been added to the cart, I will select the option at the top, Continue to Checkout. On the next screen, you can add additional packages. For example, the first option allows you to have a website builder and hosting on GoDaddy. If you want to create your own website using the domain that you just registered, for a monthly fee, GoDaddy will host your website. The Website Builder option allows you to create a website with no technical knowledge. It creates the website based on the input that you give it. If you know enough about web hosting, you can use the next option, Web Hosting. This will require you to know how to create your own website. The last option allows you to use GoDaddy to host your email. If you do not choose any options here, you are always free to use these services from someone else. So, when you register a domain name, you are not locked in to one provider. If you want to use someone else, it is just a matter of changing the appropriate DNS records to point to the other host that is providing that service. In this case, I will not be adding any additional services, so I will select No Thanks and move on. The next screen is the review screen, where I can review what I'm ordering. First of all, I will select the term which has configured itself for 5 years. In this particular case, I only want to register the domain for 1 year. It really depends on your budget how long you decide. Just remember that if the domain does expire, this will take down any services associated with the domain, and it is possible for someone to register the domain name and thus take it from you. Notice that the option for protecting your personal information has also been added. If I scroll down, you will notice that a search for additional domains has been performed. If you want to add additional top-level domains of the same name, it is up to you. Under this is a promo code. Before you register the domain name, it is worth your time searching the internet to see if you can get a promo code. This may save you some money. Once you are happy, press the button for Proceed to Checkout. The next screen will ask if you are an existing or new customer. In this case, I am a new customer, so I will need to press Continue to register as a new customer. The top part is just basic information about name and address, so I will speed up the video and skip past this. The next section down is the username, PIN, and password. It is important not to forget the username and password like with any user account. If you do have an issue and you need to call GoDaddy up for support, the customer service representative will ask you for this PIN for identification, so this is also an important item to remember. Lastly, at the bottom, you need to enter in your credit card details, or PayPal details if you're using PayPal. Notice the tick box at the bottom, Use as express checkout for future purchases. If you leave this option ticked, any future purchases that you make will be made automatically with this credit card. Once I press Continue, on the next screen I get the chance to confirm the details. Once I'm happy with the details and press Place Your Order, the order will be placed and the domain name will be registered to me. Now that the domain name has been created, I next want to have a look at the admin tool supplied by GoDaddy for performing administration on the newly registered domain name. To do this, first of all, I need to press the Login button at the top left and enter in my username and password. Once I am logged in, the next step is to select the pull-down menu on the far left and then select the option Visit My Account. Here you can launch the administration tool for any of the GoDaddy products that you are using. If I open the Domain section, notice in here that the one domain that I have registered is listed here. If I want to perform administration on this domain, I can do so by pressing the Launch button on the far right. This is the administration section of GoDaddy domain names. On the Settings tab are a number of domain settings. Some of these are GoDaddy settings, and others are settings that are stored on the top-level domain server. Notice that under the name server, there are two fully qualified domain names listed. These are two of the DNS servers for GoDaddy. These two servers are stored on the top-level domain server. Essentially, when a client asks who can provide answers for this domain name, the top-level domain server will respond with one of these. You can change these to non-GoDaddy DNS servers if you wish. Just remember that if you do these changes, it can take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to take effect. If you make a mistake and need to change it back, it can take another 24 to 48 hours to change back to the previous settings. Notice above this is the option for Lock. Currently, GoDaddy is responsible for managing this DNS name. For example, changing the name servers listed below must be done through GoDaddy, even if there are no services at all that are being used on GoDaddy. Even if the zone file is not hosted on a GoDaddy DNS server, the low-level changes for this DNS domain need to be made here. In some cases, you may want to transfer the DNS name to another registrar. A common reason for this is that you may be paying too much each year for the domain name and have found a better deal somewhere else. Another common reason is that services are being moved from one provider to another, and with it, the domain name is also being transferred. In some cases, this is a better option, and in a moment we will see why. The last common reason is that the domain name has been sold or transferred to another party. The Lock option prevents the DNS domain from being managed by another registrar. If you need to transfer the domain name to another registrar, you need to select this option to unlock it, which allows the DNS domain name to be transferred. Remember, this has nothing to do with the zone file or DNS record stored in that zone file. Once the domain name has been unlocked, if I scroll down to the bottom, notice the option Authorization Code. This option generates a one-off code that is used to transfer the domain. When transferring the domain name, the second party needs to use this authorization code to transfer the DNS domain, giving another layer of security when transferring domain names. I will now select the tab DNS Zone File. This will show all the DNS records that are stored in the DNS zone file on the GoDaddy DNS server. Currently, since my name servers are pointing to the GoDaddy DNS servers, these DNS records stored in this zone file will be used. If I scroll down, you will notice that a whole heap of DNS records have already been created. If I were using additional GoDaddy products, these DNS records would point to those GoDaddy products. You can see why a lot of people will use the same hosting company that they used to register the domain. Doing so means the DNS records are automatically configured, making the process of adding additional services a lot easier. However, this is not required. If I scroll down further, notice that I have mail exchanger records, and right down at the bottom, I have name server records. These are listed as informational. This is basically saying that these are the name server records that are stored in the top-level domain server. If you want to change these, you need to change them on the Settings tab. You are free to add additional name server records here if you wish, or any other DNS record that you wish. Any DNS server that holds a copy of the DNS zone file and is considered to be an authority for that zone could be added here as a name server. In this case, no name server would need to be added, since GoDaddy is handling this for us. However, if you are managing a domain name for a company, you may need to add additional name servers here. Well, I hope you have learned a lot about how to register and manage domain names. If you want to learn more about DNS or other IT-related topics, please check out our website. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.